All right, welcome to another episode of Old Gold. Today we've got Michael and Ava Hebner, who are a father and daughter team that run a small but wildly successful family office in the States. And since we have a lot of this type of investor in our projects, I thought it'd be great to have them on and give some insight on kind of what they do and how they find the little gems like Chancery and pure tungsten. You guys recently came with us on the investor trip to Korea, which was great. We saw the pure tungsten mine, the processing plant, and all the other cool things we got to see, and we got to eat a lot of great food, and it was a lot of fun. Really, it was a kind of a grueling schedule, especially for you guys. A lot of jet lag. You came straight from the States, and then we just jumped right in it. Our first day was like an 18-hour day. So, yeah, you guys were troopers. But Michael kept us all entertained with his great sense of humor and his stories, and Ava was basically the adult in the room among all of us. So, um, Mike, I know you have a background in brokerage. For anybody that knows you, I suppose that's quite obvious. But what's your general strategy in your office there? It's just you and Ava, is that correct?
Yeah, our general strategy is try not to get fired. We've been doing this since 1985. Somebody tells me that's like 40 years. And the reason we look at some of these companies, like we knew the tungsten stuff, the asset, and the people, we knew them from 15, 17 years ago, right? Wesson and Tiger. And so, but it was Ava that, because recently, the last few years, our whole thesis has been we want to be in drones, robots, and AI because we think they're going to change the future. And so we thought the raw materials to make them, that's what was going to be the key thing. And so not long ago, I don't know, Ava, when did you tell me about tungsten and how China put that on the critical do not export list?
Well, so I know they had started originally kind of releasing stuff about export bans or kind of you needed more licensing back in July 2023. And so then from then, it just only progressed more and more kind of aggressive. And so then I know we did, well, not necessarily tungsten first, but antimony before that. I think that was maybe August 15th, 2024. So that's a little bit of a year difference, a year and some months difference. And so that was just kind of their original forego of saying that you're going to need licenses, we're going to be kind of cracking down on this stuff, and not necessarily, or just the state that it was going to be shipped. And so then it's only kind of progressed more from there. So it was July 2023, August 2024, and then that initial ban in September 15th is when it to the U.S. And so from there, we just watched the pricing, and it's parabolic, just these numbers. It's just insane.
So when I was talking to one of the first companies, Lewis, and we were talking, the price was $300, and they were going to get a 300 guarantee from the government, from one of the defense people, and his cost was like 100. Today, that price is 3,200, right? And so just 15, 18 months ago, whenever it's been. And so we always like to look at it, before we buy something, we follow Michael Oliver. We want the price to go up, profits, production, and then we want money flow. So if we get all four of those things, Ava, what do we call our whole solution?
The Quaternity. So it's kind of like a take on the Catholic Church, the Holy Trinity. But so that's three. This is four. Quaternity.
So, and the price, and that's the most important thing. And so when we were looking at antimony had went from $5,000 to $60,000, right? And but the other thing is like we like to say, every one of these particular situations, one of the reasons I got fired in 2015 was because we thought that the U.S. government and people should be involved in this, right? In all of these things. And so my clients, we owned the antimony, we owned the tungsten, and luckily in small positions, but and so when these things come along, there's opportunities. And so Ava would tell me, "Hey, do you know an antimony company?" And I say, "Oh yeah, I knew this guy John Lawrence, and he had this thing, and he was the only refiner, and he's been hanging on." And so I called out there and talked, and John had passed away, and so we found out, and fortunate for our clients, his son decided to sell a bunch of shares, and so it was very fortunate for us. Um, and that was like silly 40 cents because when Ava and I were at the New York Stock Exchange with another tungsten company recently, I think the guy, the specialist there, he thought we were telling stories because we were involved with this one, this one, this one, right? And but again, we're like a 20-year overnight success, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that you guys have gotten into a handful of critical mineral stocks pretty early. You've had some pretty crazy success, especially quite recently. Uh, and now you're obviously interested in pure tungsten. So, how did you stumble across pure tungsten exactly? Have you known about Tiger for a while?
Because I knew Tiger back in 2012 or 13 when he was at Lewis's mine, right? And I knew and Nick Smith and all of these people, but so we knew that. And then I think Ava or something because Ava's always looking. It's just like like tungsten. You use that as a word search, and so I think she sent me the stuff on Jeremy's. She sent me the video, and I thought these people really know it, and I knew of Tiger. I never spoke to him, but I knew of his name in the past.
And so that's how you kind of stumbled across us then.
Yeah, and we're not recommending anything, right? The
Right.
only thing we really wanted to do, and I wanted to send Ava over to
He was
Korea.
gonna send me over there alone. I said, I don't
I
know
would
how
have
I feel
taken care of you. Would have
for
been
a
okay.
first mining trip. I don't know how I feel about like he's done this before, but I said we do a lot of stuff above ground. I've never been below ground, so I don't. In Korea, that's kind of a little bit of a distance from Michigan, so.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what was
So
your what
the
was your
eight,
impression?
I loved, and you know what I loved is so usually when we go anywhere or any of our kind of trips, I'm everyone's travel planner. So I loved that someone else had taken control of my whole day, and I was just kind of told where to go. Like I said, we got up at 5:30. We were down at the by the bus or whatever at 6:30. They came and picked us up. We drove 3 hours. I mean, for us that's kind of fine, but 3 hours from Seoul out to Sanjong, and I don't know, I loved it. And like I said, maybe a little bit when we were going through the mountains, I was kind of peeking over my shoulder, looking out the window. I was like, we're getting kind of high, and these are kind of some steep hills. But we got out there, and just everyone, I have never met someone or just as a team so happy to be at work. And it was all of these older gentlemen that had came back from, I think, when the mine closed in 1984, because it was previously a Stalin mine, or a Soviet era Stalin mine. And I just couldn't believe and everyone was just so gracious and happy to have, and just the community support. I remember we were driving up the mountain and all of the banners and everyone was just so excited. So it was a great experience. And like, I loved the dogs on the property. Like, I know that's
They were pretty cool dogs.
not the most important aspect of this, but I loved it. So everyone was just extremely
Yeah,
kind and I had a great time.
yeah. That is true. But what you mentioned about the guys who work in there, they were all not old, but a little bit older, but
Yeah,
they're very experienced and they all knew what they were doing and they were all very happy to be there. That was actually a really good point you
exactly.
made. Yeah.
And I
I
almost
think that they
compare
all
it to
love what they
like
do.
2020. And so everyone went to like, so you were whatever, COVID happened. So then everyone goes online. And I almost compare it to like that, whatever, 5, 6 year period where everyone's online and there's no activity happening. But so then you have all this whole older generation coming back and showing the younger people how it's done and getting the process. Like he says, it's like you have to be in person to know how to do these things. And even when we went to the processing plant, they had that guy at the end of the table, and I just couldn't believe the knowledge. And like I said, just passing that information on and showing everyone what needs to be done to get this, like, you know what I mean? Back, it's already running, but
think of some of the other companies that we're involved with that aren't anywhere near down the line where you're at, right? As in terms of having all of these things. And where are we going to get these people, right? That know how, because that it was like a Rube Goldberg type experience when you're putting the stuff over here and all of the things that have to happen. And that one gentleman that we offered to find a girlfriend for,
The
and
geologist, yeah, yeah, the main geo.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he said he wanted two, and so I found
I
that
think
pretty
that was your
entertaining.
comments. I don't be putting words in his mouth. I think that was your
That might have been Mike's
prediction.
idea.
Because just the institutional knowledge that he has, because he hadn't done but the millennium and stuff, but the idea that some guy, my or Ava's generation or something, is going to come out with a flow plan, and they got this thing, and they're just going to get this stuff from over there to over there. I mean, the thing we face with all these critical minerals is just a lack of knowledge, because General Motors, for them to get into China, they had to sell their rare earth division called MagnaQuench, and so China took that, and the only one of the only people, Hillary Clinton was the only person that was questioning that at the time. And but again, China looks to the future, and so all of those people that were down in Indiana or Ohio, they're all gone. That's been 30, 40 years ago. And so where are we going to get the expertise? Because rare earths aren't rare, it's the processing. And it's just like this stuff. I mean, tungsten's very dense, but somebody came up with the idea that it's very dense, but it's also very like porcelain. It's easily to break. And but Tiger showed us with the light. I think I've seen enough tungsten in my life. Um, as we went through the mine for 3 hours. I mean, and he showed us the various different grades and stuff like that. I'm pretty good with tungsten, and I don't think I ever need to look at any more tungsten. But I do like his passion, right? And I mean, I've never been on a trip before in the brokerage where somebody's taking 18 hours of my time, right? And where they've kept me busy. And again, I like that because they've driven us harder than we drive ourselves.
Yeah, it was a pretty grueling schedule, but I got to hand it to you guys. I think you guys probably came the furthest and were the most jet lagged for sure. A lot of the other group came from London.
Yeah, London.
Um, and one of the guys basically is Korean, but splits his time between Hong Kong and Korea. And I live in South Asia, so it wasn't really that big of a deal for me. It's like a 2 hour time difference. But the fact that you guys kept up with the schedule and were still sharp and on the ball, I got to hand it to you. That's a tough thing, especially at our age, Mike. Ava's Ava's a spring chicken.
I'm not gonna name or years. I'm not.
Um, but it was definitely an impressive trip. I don't think anybody left there unimpressed. It was a great
Exactly.
tour. Going to see the YG1 factory as well was really I like that stuff.
I know that
Maybe it's a
was
man
it's
thing. It was cool.
And the idea that this company that allegedly Warren Buffett owns 17 or 18% of, they rolled out the red carpet for this little company that's private. And it just shows you, and these people are very smart, the AI and the robots and everything that they had going on there. And you can see why they're one of the world leaders in this tungsten tool bit stuff. And the idea that they're reaching down because they understand what Ava has pointed out, that China, just like with all of these critical minerals, China is going to keep them for themselves. And again, their mines are all run down anyway. And so there's going to be great opportunity. And then Ava pointed out to me that Donald Trump Jr. was following our
oh yeah,
footsteps.
I
And
know because that's what the ambassador said. He said something about Eric Trump, and I said, well, I think it's a little funny that now Don Jr. with his fiance was over there the week after us. Maybe they wanted to go see Tiger too. I don't know.
It's possible. I know that so Mario and Pierre both have sent me the article about the Trump boys investing in tungsten and critical minerals, and yeah, people can call it what they want, but it's smart. So, a lot of people are a bit biased against the Trumps, but at the end of the day, they're business people, so they have their finger on the pulse of everything.
I don't care who makes money. I look at it more from the point of view of the United States, right? Because if we don't move on these things, like Ava, what was the report that you brought up a few years ago?
The
The thing that
Palantir, yeah, yeah, yeah. The Palantir, they had came out with like a kind of a black page trashing their number one customer, the U.S. government, saying how we're gonna. It was the Defense Reformation. So that was that, and it was published on October 31st, and so that kind of just was a little bit of a slap in the face to our government.
But what we looked at in there is what they talked about. They compared Boeing and Lockheed to like the Soviets, and there was no competition, no pricing, and there was just no incentives. And what the guy at Palantir didn't articulate was the critical minerals. And so they talked about all these other things and how our industry was hamstrung and there's no competition, but they didn't talk about the critical minerals. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we are looking at this, because we think Elon Musk and Alex Karp are some of the smartest guys. And one of the most disappointing days in my life was when they tossed Elon Musk out of the White House because the thing is one of the books that I read a long time ago, it's called The Washington War. And this talks about the United States before World War II and how FDR brought in all of these people from industry, right? And so we had to do all of these things. But he brought business people in, the greatest, like the guy from GM, the guy from all of these people, and they're the ones that allowed us to beat Nazi Germany, because back then we had to make tanks, we had to make airplanes, and we had to get into the nuclear bomb stuff. And I was just looking at some of the numbers that were kicked out in that book. In 1935, we made like 300 airplanes, 300. Right. By 39, when the world was at war, we made 3,000, and we thought we were setting the world on fire. Right. But by 1944, we were making over 97,000 airplanes. Right. And that was right. But again, we're at that like 300 to 3,000. Right. And so I don't care to give credit to, because in our favorite movie, my favorite movie, Margin Call with Jeremy Irons, his great, the best line in the movie: be first, be smart, or cheat. Well, Dave McNally doesn't allow me to cheat, right? And so we have to be smart and we have to be first, right? And so that's what we're doing. And a lot of the brokers, everybody's doing these other things. And so we get to focus. We don't have a lot of competition. And so we get to focus, but America needs to do all of these things. And then the other thing that Ava identifies is like Trump's kids or Trump's friends investing. So maybe you can talk about that, Ava.
Well, like I said, I love Twitter, and so I think that's kind of a big, like, where I get my information, at least. I think it's, you put in kind of a keyword on that explore kind of page, and so that it will just continue to feed you all of this information. And like I said, you can go through the reports. But like 1789 and Howard Lutnick and all of his people, I think it's kind of interesting to see, or what they're involved. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of go down that list, and is it the Cantillon or the Cantillon effect? It's like where the money is, that's where it's going to follow. And like he said, in Washington, D.C., why do you think that's like the wealth populace of the U.S.?
So Twitter is a big tool for you then, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because she found the second company, because
Yeah.
we were already involved with Lewis. And I mean, tell us the crazy story of how you found the second company that got invited
this other
to the New York
company,
Stock Exchange.
so I had just put like Tungsten in. It's just like so anyone that tweeted anything, or whatever you want to call it now, X, anyone that posted anything about Tungsten, it was going directly to my feed. And so I'm scrolling one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a really cute dog. And then second, there's David Beckham. And I said, David Beckham in a Tungsten thread? Like, I was like, what's the correlation? And I thought this guy was joking. And so I just thought he was being like sarcastic, like one of those like burner verse kind of like situation, like someone making a joke, making light of it. And I was like, who would pitch David Beckham on their morning walk, have them hold their dog and tell them about their company and say, you really need to get involved with this? So like, obviously I thought it was a joke and I thought it was funny. And so I kind of looked into the guy and I was like, no, this is for real. Like, I was like, this guy's serious. This guy has operations in the U.S. processing. And then the other thing I thought was kind of funny was, I don't know if you remember back in, I think 2019, everyone was obsessed with storming Area 51. And so if you look over the operations, that is where their operations take place. So I just thought that was kind of interesting as well.
And who was the investors in that company, Ava?
The investors in that, okay, so it was, Stan Druckenmüller, right? Yeah. And then I'm trying to think who else. But so they had sat next to each other. And so all of these people, it's like we always say this industry is very incestuous. So it's like you have one connection and then it's like going a million different ways. And so just that
So
aspect.
Louis Bacon
Yeah, yeah.
gave Trump his first money, and he owned like 28% of this company. And then we got in front of before Stan did. Stan's the guy that saved my career in 1987. Stan ran the Dreyfus Capital Value Fund. I was a fresh young broker, and so the stock market crashed in 87, and I was in Stan's fund, the Dreyfus Capital Value Fund, and it was up 34% that year in 1987. So I'm a broker, and Stan made me look like a genius. And then George Soros came along and hired Stan Druckenmiller. And so we're looking at, and then that first tungsten company we were involved with, that 1789 came in a lot later than we did, and they invested in it. But again, we don't have a problem. We're not in the morality business. We're in the investment business, right? And we're here to make money, but we're here for the United States. We need these materials, and so I don't care how we get them and how we have that. It's just like that Warren Buffett company over there. They were interested in this because everybody who's smart and knows the future knows that they're going to have these things. And what one of the other things that we look at is the Magnificent Seven. Everybody's looking at that today, and the Magnificent Seven, those stocks, if you take all the value and you add it up, they're worth more than the whole Chinese stock market, right? And the last time I saw something like this, when I was a young broker, the state of California, you could have bought the Japanese Imperial Palace and had that little piece of land, or you could have owned every piece of land and every property in California. What would you have taken? Now today you have this, you can own the Magnificent Seven, but the Magnificent Seven, they need China. Last I checked, Taiwan's a little island, right? They don't have anything. They don't have any tungsten, antimony, rare earths. And so if China is not beneficent, right? Because our whole policy in the United States is kind of like that old movie, Streetcar Named Desire, right? Where Blanche DeBois in there, she said, we're going to rely on the generosity of strangers, right? That was her plan, right? And the United States is Blanche DeBois, right? We're going to rely on the generosity of strangers, right? And they're going to make our life. And Ava and I, we realized that that's probably not a good idea. And so we focus on these things, but these are things, like I said, that caused problems in the past for us. And then the other thing we like to add to is like Michael Oliver. Michael Oliver, we use that because when I got fired in 2015, Michael Oliver in 2011 and 12 said, you better sell these investments. And a lot of people were smart like me, and they didn't. But that's what it's got us into. And that's why we're always focused on the price. And it's just like when he said natural gas was going to go from 1 to 9, Ava went out and found every crappy natural gas company, right, that had the lowest costs that was still in business, right? And so we had exponential wins in that. And then when he said coal prices were going to go up, coal went from $40 to $400 a ton, right? And so, as Warren Buffett says, buy a company an idiot can run, because eventually an idiot will run it. Well, right. And these companies, this royalty company we'd bought had went from $1,600 down to 12, and we started buying at 12, and it went to 10 before it went to 100. Right. But the point is, and then we sold it because coal came back all the way down. And so we just don't own these things, just like the natural gas. You got to have, and we think that too many people are looking at momentum today, just like you could use our model on Apple or Nvidia. And if they have pricing, right, and the sales keep going up, that's good, and money keeps flowing in. But when those things don't happen, and that's why kind of Apple didn't move and for a while, and now they're starting to sell some stuff. But again, there's 17 rare earths or 11 rare earths in an iPhone, right? And so if you don't have those, how are you going to make that iPhone? And again, we don't have them. We're still not going to produce them. Everybody's like, it's like the weather. Everybody's talking about it, but nobody's doing anything about it.
So you guys definitely have your finger on the pulse of the critical minerals, obviously. You've you've had a lot of success recently from that. What do you guys think about sort of the precious metals market and where gold and silver are headed?
I mean, we again, our guys don't let us make predictions. And so, and again, it's like Yogi Berra says, that I mean, whatever his prediction thing. And so we don't want to. But again, we just say there's a lot of experts out there, and Michael Oliver, he likes this stuff, and so until we look at all of our people, we'll keep you on. We're like Nick Saban. We're like a football team, right? And as long as you keep producing, we're going to keep you here, right? And if you don't produce, off the team. I can't fire Ava because mom won't let me. But so she's like tenured, But we continue to look at this, and it's just like when Ava's mom Heather and I started dating, gold was $400 in 2000, right? It's whatever it is, 4,000 or something. So it's done all right. And the Chinese seem to like gold. And so we like that. And who's the beneficiary of that? And so, and again, a year ago, gold was $2,700 or so. Today it's 4,500. So if you're a gold company, you're selling it. And so we don't care so much about the price. We care that our companies are making money, right? And I mean, you saw that with Barrick and Newmont, and we care where our gold is located too, right? Because it's just like Mexico in 1938, they took over the oil company down there. So I always like to say they're not virgins, right? They've already done it before, and so the idea that they're not going to take my gold or silver company, right? And again, their job, Mexico's job, is to take care of Mexico, right? And to take care of their people, and not some a gringo like me. And it's just like Ava and I were invited. Tell them about the story. We were invited to go visit this one silver company down in Mexico.
We like to stay, no, we don't like to go south of the border a lot of times. Like I said, if you're having to kind of put on a disguise, or like he even says, if it's not somewhere I would take my family for spring break, I don't know if that's where I want my money tied up. But so I just know that there was an incident this past spring, and something very sad had happened to, I think, 10 of the people. And so it's just kind of an eye-opening. Like I said, this is part of the investment business, is making these like location or graphical decisions, and if that's something you want to be a part of. And like I said, when we talk to a lot of these companies that we do, it's like the cartel is their trucking, is there, you know what I mean? It's like you can't get away from that when you're down there. The part
So
of
that
this,
one was scratched off the list pretty quickly then.
I said he made me mad. I said maybe I'll forward you down there, but I'm going to stay here in the States. So thank you very much.
See, because you look at it, anybody that's watched The Sopranos, right? Tony's guys, right? And you have to be an earner. You have to do something. I have to do something. And so there was 3 revenue streams down there in Mexico, right? The human trafficking, the drugs, and then this mining stuff were there. And so if Trump has taken away the other 2, right? You and we work for Tony, we have to be earners. And so now they're leaning on the mining companies, right? And it's just natural. And this protection business for from Chicago with Al Capone, I mean, this is old as time. And I mean, we don't have a problem with their business model down there. We just don't, as Rick Rule says, we like to deal with unorganized criminals like the government, not organized criminals like the mob and the cartel, right? And these guys are real serious. If you don't see, the neat thing about the trucking companies down there we don't have a trucking problem, right? Because the mob takes care of it, right? The guy doesn't show up, he doesn't get 30 days off. He gets a lifetime off. And, but again, we choose not to deal with that.
I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know that the market opens, in another half hour or so, and you guys are very busy with what you do. Is there anything that you want to wrap up with? I'll leave that up to you guys.
Oh, for you guys, and you guys should put this guys on your list. Jacob Fugger. This is he was the richest man ever in the world, right? And on a percentage wealth of the world. And his secret was royalty companies, right? And he got the Catholic Church to give him royalties. And so he's the guy that when the Protestant Reformation and all of these things, he was the guy that forced the Catholic Church to go out and sell indulgences. So they had to raise money. So that's the indulgences were, if I was a bad guy, I pay these guys and then I would get into heaven. And then they ran out of people to sell that to. So then if my dad or grandfather were bad people, they could get them out of hell if I paid them money. And so, and this is one of the reasons why the Protestant Reformation came along, and Martin Luther was this guy. And he was double entry thing. But again, his secret to success was the Catholic Church had all of these deposits, and he got royalties on them where they had to give him the silver, the tin, the whatever it was, and he made all this money. And that's one of the things why we like royalty companies, because heads they win, they get their money right off the top. And if you'd own one of the large royalty companies, from 2012, 15 on, when the gold and stuff, everything came down, those royalty companies went straight up. And that's why they made money, because, and that's where Jeremy, I think the genius of him, he's figured this out, and he probably knows about Fugger and all of these people in Franco, Nevada. And so that's why, another reason why we're interested, because we can't invest in that now with our clients. But once you bring these things public, every royalty company Ava focuses on, right? And if we can get closer to you guys, and then if you guys are worthy for Ava, and she looks at these things, the country risk and all of these things, right? Then we will be an investor. And so but the big thing is we don't know everything. And it's just like in 2008, I knew the market was going to crash and we were in cash. But I just happened to be in the primary reserve fund, the largest money market fund at the time, right? And so it caused us a bunch of problems because we were in cash and we couldn't access our cash. Our primary reserve fund, the largest money market fund in the world, I didn't know at the time it had Chinese money in it. So they didn't want China taking their money out, right? And so they froze the fund. And so my clients and me were geniuses, and we were in that. And so I don't know what derivative effect we're going to come up with. And we think there's going to be problems in the market. And so we're always trying to forecast A, B, C, but who knows? And it's just like I was a genius in 2008, but then not so much.
Well, on that note, for the viewers, we talked a lot today about our trip to Pure Tungsten. We're pretty much closing the door on that. You have another day or two. So if anybody is still interested, or you thought you missed the boat, the link will be down below. Also, the link for Chancery Royalty, which we've done some episodes on. And we've now got a round open for Pilar Gold, which was our episode last week. I filmed that in Korea, actually. With Richard and Jeremy, and that was a great episode. Rich did really well. So we've got that round open now. All those links will be down in the description for anybody that's interested. You can always request the info. You can request a call with us. We're happy to talk to anybody. So that's how it all started with Mike and Ava as well.
Yeah, and again, we're not recommending any of these things, just so you know. And it's just the process, and that's where we like the price of gold the way it's been, and all of these things. But again, we do like that the story has similarities. The Pilar to all of the El Monte and all of these other companies. I can't mention that name, but I did. Because where they had real problems in the past, right? But the problems in the infrastructure, those are the opportunity today. It's just like one of the most successful silver companies. This thing, it was called Allied Nevada, and it went from 1 to 45, and then it went to 0. And then somebody picked it up, and then it went from 1 to 40 or 50, but it's got all the infrastructure. And so the investors, the big thing is everybody needs to look at what does that company have? What do your assets have? And it's all that money that's been invested there, and somebody's tears, it went into that, right? In time. And now so that's kind of where the opportunity is. And so everybody looks at some of these things as negative. I look at some train wrecks and all of these problems as positive, right? Because it's when do you get involved, right? And that's where the investors have to make, and then we have the right horses to take advantage of this. And that's where people like Ava and I, and that have been around the industry for a little bit, we like people that have lots of scars and lots of issues, right? Because again, yeah, I mean, to understand the peaks, because we have a lot of Diego Pavias as clients now because their accounts have went up so much, and we have to just drive them down like a coach and not listen to the rat poisoning and looking at their statements and all this nonsense, right? And saying, look, your expectations are way too large. They expect us to win the national championship every year, right? And And I just tell them I'm never that smart and I'm never as dumb as everybody says I am. And everybody's got to kind of figure out in between.
Maybe you're the Lou Holtz of family offices in the States.
Well, we like the guy. We like the guy at Indiana, and my daughter calls me a bandwagon guy, right? Because again, he's an older guy, and he's had a lot of, and he runs his mouth and he talks a lot, and the government doesn't allow us to do that. I can't guarantee victories and things, but I really appreciate what the guy at Indiana's done.
He's a great coach, but I'm a Purdue boy, so I'm not allowed to admit that.
Well, my daughter calls me a band. I was a Nick Saban guy, then he quit. Now I'm over here. Whoever I'm like Don King. Whoever's winning. Don King had this one fighter at the fight. He went to the fight with that. His fighter lost. He went home with the other fighter.
Plays on both ends. On both ends.
Yep.
I'm with the winners, and
yep.
So.
But it works out for you.
Well, I mean, we've had our and again, and that's the thing, we fair and balanced. I mean, every one of these things we've made a lot of money on, we've lost money on in the past, and that's where, and getting that timing and getting Oliver and getting Ava and getting the government and getting China and getting all these stars to line up. It's a beautiful thing, right?
Well,
and
I can't be held accountable for anything before 2020, so I'll put that out there. So anyone, not on me. Not on me.
But it's just like you guys, the opportunity that Jeremy and everything has, and that's why, I mean, is setting up. If you guys do the right thing, is this is setting up. But again, Jeremy, you look at how many Jeremy's a guy like me, and I looked at his history and all the successes that he's had, and that's the
but
thing
everything
really
before
draws,
that,
exactly.
He's been through the ringer as well. Yeah.
Well, and then someone had
Exactly.
messaged me on LinkedIn, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't think he sleeps, or he sleeps standing up. You need to ask him that." And I was like, I think that's some maybe advice someone down the street had to say. I don't think anyone at Chancery is saying that he sleeps.
Well, again, I mean,
when
he
they talk-
I
works
got
hard.
left on red. I got left on red. So
Were they talking about Jeremy?
it was Jeremy or Tiger. They said that he sleeps standing up, or that he doesn't sleep. I don't know. I was like, okay.
Jeremy's amazing. I
I
always
know,
say
because when
this
we were
to
over,
people
he
that
was in wherever, and he was still on the call. And like I said,
Yep.
you call him and he picks up.
They say that Trump regularly sleeps about 4 hours a night, and that a lot of people are like that. When they're very productive, they're just productive people. Jeremy, I think, sleeps less than that. I don't know, honestly. We're on not opposite times of the day, but he's in London and I'm in South Asia, and there's times when I'll message him thinking, well, I'll get a response like in hours when he wakes up, and he'll message me right back, and I'm thinking, it's like 3 a.m. your time. What do you like? So I don't know. I don't know when he sleeps. He's a bit of an enigma.
It's just like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Charlie Curtis at General Motors in the past. I mean, they slept at their desk, right? Because when the job's done, it's just like Ava can tell you, in the last 18 months or 2 years, we've been at the office at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? 3 o'clock in the morning, because something needed done, right? And we don't go home until something gets done. Right, and we got off the plane at 10 o'clock.
I know. Our plane landed at 10:30. It was, I think, an hour drive back home. We took a shower. He had us back in the office at 1 p.m. on Thursday. So we flew out Sunday afternoon at 12 p.m. We got to Korea or Seoul at like 1, or no, we got there at like 4. I don't even remember. And then we had dinner with you at 7. So then we did all that stuff the next day, 5:30. Then you got back at 11.
18-hour day.
Yeah. So then we had whatever. We woke up the next day. We went and had lunch with the ambassador, and then we saw the YG1, and then we flew home the next morning. And like I said,
well, again, we think that there's this next year, 2 years, whatever, this window to make AI, drones, robots, because as the guy at Palantir said, this is existential, right? Either we win or they win. It was just like World War II. We win or they win. And that's why we need to bring these things together. And that's why we don't get involved a lot of nonsense. And that's why some of the things we're doing on these calls, we think that we need to move and we need to come together as a nation. And I don't care if the Trump kids, if the Trump friends, and again, if the Democrats in Congress want to call me for some of the ideas before the Trump kids, you can give them my number, right? We'll be happy to talk to the Democrats, right? And give them the numbers to get them involved, because again, like the old joke was, the Chinese did our laundry. I don't want to be doing the Chinese laundry in the future, right?
Yeah, which is a possibility for sure.
Well, exactly. And
Yeah.
so enough of this. But again, appreciate you guys. And we look forward to seeing your things as they come public so we can, so Ava can do all of her research on them and give the old thumbs up or thumbs down.
Great. Well, listen, I really appreciate you guys coming on today. It was so cool to meet you guys and hang out with you while we were in Korea. We had a really good time. I know it was quite a tiring schedule, but you guys were troopers. And I will probably make it to the States this summer. Hopefully, we can hook up for a lunch or something.
Yep.
Perfect. It was
All
great
right.
seeing you again. Thank you so much for having us on.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you guys coming on. And again, for anybody watching, the links are down below if you're interested. And we will see you next week.